Oh, you thought the trade discussions would be over. Nah, we're not done, folks. Because as the days towards the regular season come and go, as we sit and watch the preseason, being impressed by whomever it is decides to step up in these preliminary games, we slowly get ourselves more info. And today, I wanted to give a big shout out over to Maxime Truman and Marco Normandin, who went out there on the Pool Cast to speak out about the latest in regards to Mason McTavish, Pavel Zacha, Sidney Crosby, and other alternatives. This Poolcast episode was posted onto YouTube yesterday, and it has 1,000 views at the time of recording this audio. It's an hour long. It's the show that they've got going on there. Link is going to be in the description if you want to listen to the entire thing. Although, if you're like me and you can't really speak French, maybe it's not a good idea. But the reason we are diving into this podcast is because of what they had said about the failed Montreal and St. Louis Blues blockbuster trade that didn't happen in the summer. Now, what are you talking about, Lego? There was a trade made between Montreal and St. Louis. It was Logan Mailloux for Zach Bolduc, right? That trade happened. It wasn't a blockbuster, but what do you mean it didn't happen? And yeah, that's true. The Mailloux and Bolduc trade did happen. The Montreal Canadiens and the Blues made a deal, but it was not the only deal that we had been talking about all summer. Throughout the course of the dead summer months, we were making video commentaries about a very particular name that kept on bringing himself up in the Montreal conversation. Jordan Kyrou. A 70-plus point, speedy, playmaking, extraordinarily offensively talented forward who, by all accounts, was on the block, and who, even further to that point, was apparently interested in playing for the Montreal Canadiens. That, of course, was a discussion we had multiple times throughout the course of the offseason, and it's like, why wouldn't we? He was a really good player, is a really good player, and if there's any point where a player of Kyrou's caliber is apparently wanting to come to Montreal, that's when you gotta say, yeah, okay, we gotta beat this into the ground. Until it happens, it's just speculation, but all the speculation linked Kyrou to the Habs. Unfortunately, we did not see a trade involving Jordan Kyrou in any capacity. He's still a Blue at the time of recording this audio. Now, the reason we are revisiting the Kyrou sweepstakes, and I'm going to say sweepstakes just because, he's a very good player, he's very talented, and his contract's not bad either, so if there was any sort of an inclination that St. Louis had to trade him, there probably would have been a bunch of teams interested in acquiring him. But the reason we are revisiting Montreal is because of how far those talks actually went, and what was talked about by Truman and Normandin on that Poolcast podcast episode that we had seen. I'll leave another link in the description to this article posted on HabsFanatics.com by Elias Ediem. How rumor swirls around the Canadiens player that the St. Louis Blues demanded in the Jordan Kyrou trade talks. Now, the title of the article is worded kind of weirdly, but essentially, this seems to be the rejected trade that didn't go through, that supposedly would have landed the Canadiens' Jordan Kyrou. Take a look at what Maxime Truman said on the Poolcast. Also this summer, with the Canadiens, they almost went and acquired Jordan Kyrou. I don't know how close they were to actually acquiring him. They talked, Truman said. To that, Marco Normandin added, from what I had heard, there really were discussions for a trade between the Habs and the Blues involving Kyrou. At first, it was a bigger trade. Bolduc and Mailloux were included and all that, but they couldn't come to an agreement on the Kyrou part of the trade. So, Kent Hughes and the St. Louis Blues, they just completed the part involving Bolduc and Mailloux. But, from what I'm told, from a fairly well-informed source, it would have cost the Habs Kaiden Guhle if they wanted Jordan Kyrou. And that, ladies and gentlemen, Oh boy, that would have been a blockbuster trade if it were to go down in the ways that it was discussed initially. Think about it. The Mailloux and Bolduc trade was 1-for-1. Literally just a normal old hockey trade, nothing special about it, just two reasonably talented guys getting moved off for each other. If you were to make some sort of a Jordan Kyrou trade proposal involving Kaiden Guhle and potentially other stuff too. And the reason I'm saying that is because, hey, I don't know if you've noticed, Kyrou's a consistent 70-point center in the NHL. That guy's probably worth a little bit more than what Kaiden Guhle is, despite the fact that Guhle is great too. Kyrou's proven, Kyrou's cost controlled, he signed on for the long haul at $8.125 million a year. That's very good at 27 years old. This is a top center in the National Hockey League. And the Montreal Canadiens just could not figure out the details to make a trade work, either with or without Kaiden Guhle involved. But if you think about what that trade could have been like, think about Jordan Kyrou for Kaiden Guhle and a bunch of other stuff, maybe another prospect and another pick. If you think of adding Mailloux and Bolduc in that trade as well, it would have been Kyrou and Bolduc for Mailloux, Guhle, a first, and maybe another B-plus prospect. I mean, that is a blockbuster trade. The Blues would have been receiving a haul. They would have received a full-on NHL-capable D pairing from this trade. And, of course, you know, I'm not going to go out there and say that Mailloux is an absolute guarantee to being as good as people thought he would be. Guhle, I think, is a lot further along, but if you're one of those people that was thinking about the Canadiens in the summer, before Bolduc was traded, if you were penciling in Mailloux already into the top 4 of the Habs D-core, let's say you had Hudson-Dobson, then you had Guhle and Mailloux, and then on the third pair you had Matheson and Carrier, for example. Like, I don't think that's a reasonable way to think about it, that, oh, Carrier would be overtaken by Mailloux right away, but the thought process was there. There are too many guys on the Canadiens' blue line that you can mix and match things the way that you want. But if you think about the Canadiens' roster potentially looking like that, to cut and paste an entire D pair, which involved Kaiden Guhle, onto St. Louis, like, we've already seen the Blues take such big advantage over these younger guys that needed a little bit extra development and more confidence instilled within them in Broberg and Holloway, the two Edmonton guys. Now, I'm not saying that Kaiden Guhle is anywhere near what Philip Broberg was when Broberg was an Oiler. I think Guhle is miles ahead of him. But if Guhle gets traded to St. Louis, you know automatically they're giving that guy the keys to the car. Everything that Alex Pietrangelo was to the St. Louis Blues, they're going to try to make Kaiden Guhle do that all over again. And the crazy part is, it honestly might work. Even this upcoming season. I mean, Kaiden Guhle was already so good throughout the course of last season, it was just kind of a problem when he got injured, but he's already taken such strides that, yeah, there's absolutely no reason why the Blues wouldn't ask for somebody of his caliber in exchange for a guy like Jordan Kyrou. Now again, Kyrou, by himself for Guhle, it's not going to work. I do think Kyrou's a little more valuable there. You're going to have to add on some extra stuff. But now we sort of have an inclination as to why the trade got rejected in the first place. And I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. How does that make you feel? If it was Guhle, a pick, and a B-plus prospect, or even a B-tier prospect for Kaiden Guhle, do you make that trade? Do you consider the Canadiens' surplus of defensemen on the left side especially, and pull the trigger? Saying to yourself, okay, well, if it means more playing time for Struble and Matheson, then maybe a Guhle trade is fine. Are you willing to shell out an asset like that, who is far from his prime and who is still developing, yet is already one of the meanest and most stable defensemen the Canadiens have on their team? If that's the price for Jordan Kyrou with some picks and a prospect, do you do it? If you enjoyed this video at any point, please feel free to hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, then feel free to hit that dislike button. Every rating helps. Comments also help out for the algorithm too. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this rejected trade revealed? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.